I love.
Now we'll have our reading from Rays of the One Light. Shannon, you want to read?
Where is it?
It's right up here. I'm not sure.
Do you want me to check? Sure, go ahead. Oh, did you read it? Yeah, no, go ahead. No, go
third.
ahead.
The second book in.
Is that right?
That's it, yeah.
Okay. So this reading is from Rays of the One Light, Weekly Commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. Week 48. The law of karma, bondage, or soul release. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. The epistle to St. Paul to the Galatians contains this oft-quoted statement. Be not deceived, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. In Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramhansa tells a story from the life of the Benares saint Trilanga Swami. A skeptic once determined to expose Trilanga as a charlatan. A large bucket of calcium lime mixture used in whitewashing walls was placed before the Swami. Master, the materialist said in mock reverence, I have brought you some clabbered milk. Please drink it. Trilanga unhesitatingly drained to the last drop the container full of burning lime. In a few minutes, the evildoer fell to the ground in agony. Help, Swami, help, he cried. I'm on fire. Forgive my wicked test. The great yogi broke his habitual silence. Scoffer, he said, you did not realize when you offered me poison that my life is one with your own. Except for my knowledge that God is present in my stomach, as in every atom of creation, the lime would have killed me. Now that you know the divine meaning of boomerang, never again play tricks on anyone. Excuse me. The well-purged sinner, healed by Trilanga's words, slunk feebly away. Excuse me, I think I need a drink of water. Thank you. Yogananda goes on to say, the reversal of pain was not due to any volition of the master, but came about through unerring application of the law of justice, which upholds creation's farthest swinging orb. Men of God realization like Trilanga allow the divine law to operate instantaneously. They have banished forever all thwarting cross-currents of ego. Not by reason alone, but by self-realization are the ins and outs of destiny fully understood. Their web, though tied forever to the post of ego motivation, is too intricate to be perceived as a single thread. Only great masters can see it with clarity. It is visible to them in all its workings, not from within the tangle, but from above, in superconsciousness. As Sri Krishna said in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he who beholds inaction in action and action in inaction is wise among men. He is one with the Spirit. He has attained the true goal of action, perfect freedom. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Thank you, Duty. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our friends who are joining in online at home. We're going to continue with a reading from Whispers from Eternity, Master's Prayer Demand book. This is prayer number 23, Prayer Demand for Removing the Cork of Ignorance. No more shall my consciousness remain bottled in this little vessel of flesh, corked with ignorance. No more will I remain moving through the sea of cosmic consciousness, night and day, years, decades, and how many incarnations, so close, yet never able to contact thy sea. Through the bursting vibration of cosmic sound and the surging of thy holy name, I have removed the cork of ignorance which so long separated me from thee, though we lived together so closely. Now my body consciousness will meet thy all-surrounding, all-pervading consciousness. No longer will I walk heedlessly in thee, but never knowing and feeling thee. Thine image within me shall meet thine image everywhere. By releasing the I-ness in me, I will know that I am thou, and that thou alone art the little egos of us all. So in our reading today, there is a, I think, rather comical little bit here. It says, "Be not deceived. God is not mocked." And I think what's so beautiful about that is it's saying, don't deceive yourself. Of course, it's not that God is trying to deceive us, it's that we are the ones that deceive ourselves if we believe that actions that we put out aren't going to return to us equally and perfectly back. So the reading today is all about karma. And I thought I'd start with some cultural references to karma. My nieces and nephews are a good source of inspiration for this. Sometimes running around, and maybe you've seen this in your own families, and one of them is going to hit the other one or trip them, and just as they're about to do it, they trip or something hits them, and they, the others turn around and they say, "Oh, it's instant karma. You got what you deserve," sort of thing. And I think that's really special because, in children, examples are just so clear. And that's really what the essence of karma is. It's not a very complicated rule or law of the universe. It's just whatever you put out is going to come back to you in equal measure. Now, the tricky part is we're not just bound to one life or to one day or to 1 hour. I imagine in 1 hour you might be able to be aware of all the things that you put out into the universe, and so when they come back to you, you would understand, oh, this is what happened. What makes it confusing is that we live all of these multiple lifetimes, and so we might be putting out wonderful energy and doing everything the way that we think we're supposed to be doing, and then something seemingly terrible happens to us. So karma really can't be understood, I think, fully unless you put it in the context of also reincarnation and the chakras or the energy body. So it's like one little puzzle piece, and if you zoom out, to a 30,000 degree perspective, karma is just one part of this natural law that is all around us and flowing through us. So I'm going to go through each of these and sort of tie them together. So reincarnation. Reincarnation is the truth that we are a soul and we are not the body, which means that we're not bound to one lifetime. For good or for worse, we have to come back again and again until we really understand what's trying to be taught to us, what we're trying to grow and learn in this great journey of our soul evolution. So we have many, many opportunities to learn, and that's essentially what reincarnation is. Now, the soul is compelled to come back into a body for a very specific reason, and that's because of karma. So all of our karma is stored inside of the subtle body. In yoga, we call these the chakras. These are the vortexes inside of our subtle body, and whether we like it or not, there is a perfect blueprint inside of our spine. And it goes perfectly with the Bible reading, don't deceive yourself, because you can pretend that it's a different way, but at the end of the day, the imprint or the blueprint inside of your chakras is exactly who you are, much more than your personality, much more than the face that you put forward into this world. You are that exact pattern inside of you. So they all work together. We have this energy body. It's not bound to the physical body. It travels with us. We take it with us when we die or when we step out of this body to go into another one. And we have an infinite amount of opportunities to come back to this body until we've satisfied all of the karma that's inside of us. So karma, you can think of, our thoughts have energy. So when you project thought out into the world, it is a flow of energy. And that flow of energy creates a magnetism and attracts back to itself the equal and opposite. So within our spine, we have all of these little vrittis, which I've heard described as little whirlpools, little circling pools of energy inside of us, that despite our good intentions to be the best possible version of who we can be, that this energy essentially gets pulled off into these whirlpools and circles over here and circles over here. I'm going to get a little drink of water here. So essentially, every time we have a thought or every time we create an action in this life, we make one of these little vrittis inside of our spine. And really what's happening is that the ego, our sense of identity that we identify with, is binding to itself all of these little likes and dislikes, desires. I want this. This is who I am. This is what defines me. Lahiri Mahashai said that the body is nothing more than a nest of troubles. And it's so true. We are just a bundle of self-definition so long as we are anchored inside of our ego. Again, it's all of our likes and our dislikes. It's our preferences. It's our desires, our longings. They're all inside of us so long as we're identified with the ego. Now, I want to paint a picture of a big spectrum, because we're not just an isolated experience. We're not just the ego or just these self-definitions, but we're on this grand journey from an ego to something else, which is back to our soul nature. And examples of that is, we all know somebody that has a rather selfish ego, and the selfish ego doesn't think of anybody else. It just thinks of itself and says, I want this, I want that, at any expense. And the most extreme examples of that are like, gangsters and criminals, where they have no regard for any reality outside of their own. They're a tiny little bubble of all of their own desires, wants, and needs. And that causes a lot of problems because, one, it's not in harmony with the nature of who we are. And so thus it leads to suffering. Now, moving from the selfish ego, there's the enlightened ego, which is a step in the right direction. And I would say humbly that that's where I am, and I think most of us are, is in the enlightened ego, which means that we've realized that our happiness, or what we desire, is not just about our personal self, but it's also included in the people around us. Now, the binding force is still the ego, though, because it's your self-referencing back to yourself. So yes, if I help this person, it'll make them happy and it'll also make me happy. That's enlightened self-interest. Or if I do good for society, then society will appreciate me and I'll be admired. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's a step on the path to soul awakening. So most of us are in that place where we're trying to resist those selfish ego tendencies, which are purely just thinking about what I want. I don't care how it affects anybody else. And we're moving into the enlightened self-interest, which is whatever I do, if it includes others, it will make me more happy. So there's a third one, and this is where all of the saints and the masters live. And to be fair, this is where we sometimes live on any given day. Because we're not limited. These aren't hard defined realities. They're expressions of our consciousness in any given moment. So we're all trying to move towards the soul nature side of things. And the soul is always unified with God, constantly aware of its unity with the divine in everything. And so just imagine how differently it sees the world if it looks at another person in the room and it says, that's me. That's part of me. And this is a little tangent, but funny, Swami Kriyananda used to say when you're public speaking, see everybody in front of you as the guru. And that's the soul perspective. So when you look at another person, you don't see other, but you see as an extension of you, of who you are. That's what we're trying to move towards. And it's just a directional thing. No matter where you are, maybe you're in a selfish ego place at some point during the day, and you can say, well, if I include somebody else in this, it'll help me to start moving towards my soul nature. And if you're already including others, you can go a step further and start thinking of God, start concentrating on God at the point between the two eyebrows or in the heart. And you see the difference. So karma, when it's from the ego perspective, it's always referencing back to a self. And so you can think of it like the maypole that has all of the little ribbons around it. We're all walking around the maypole, tying ourselves in a knot, essentially, until we realize that there is a different reality that we can attune with. And so there's evidence of this in the Bible. When Jesus referred to himself as the Son of Man, he was referring to the body. And when he referred to himself as the Son of God, he was referring to his soul or the spirit. And so you can see even in that text, here's a fully self-realized master, but when he's referring to the physicality of himself, it's the Son of Man. And when he's referring to his consciousness, it's the Son of God. So we can practice like Jesus, and in any given moment, we can choose to identify as the sons and daughters of God. And it's very simple, but not easy to always be conscious and aware of, and to choose to do that. But it's just as simple as bringing your attention to the point between the two eyebrows and starting to think of God. And on this path of Ananda, following Paramhansa Yogananda, we have like an unlimited number of resources for awakening. Master really brought way more than any one person could ever practice in a lifetime. And one of the more powerful ones is to bring your attention to the point between the two eyebrows. If you remember, and if you've read in the autobiography of a yogi, Yogananda talks about his first days in Sri Yukteswar's ashram, that was one of the first things that Sri Yukteswar was always keep your attention at the spiritual eye. Always keep your attention there. So aside from these great spiritual truths and these realities of karma and reincarnation and the subtle body, it can be as simple as that, as concentrating at the spiritual eye. Another thing that can be really helpful is to live a serviceful life. And not in the sense that you do service because you want appreciation, which would sort of be on the enlightened self-interest side of the spectrum, which is a good thing to do if that's all that you can do in the moment, but to feel that you're actually a channel of God and that God's light and grace is flowing through you is a really powerful way to serve. And it also means that you don't have to have a specific form. Be serving at a shelter, you don't need to be up in front of a congregation, you can just be walking and praying to God, and in and of itself, that is a sharing or an expression of service. So there's an Indian or a Hindu expression of God whose name is Hanuman. And Hanuman is this, he's a monkey, and he lives up in the mountains, and if you go to India, he's everywhere up in the mountains, both as a monkey, but also as statues. And Hanuman represents, above all, devotion to God, but also he's a symbol of surrender and of service. And there's a quote that's often used with Hanuman, and I'm not going to quote it exactly. I want to paraphrase it so that it makes more sense in our path, primarily because Yogananda told us never to say that we are God. But Hanuman says that when I know myself, thou and I are one. When I know myself, when I remember myself, thou and I are one. And when I forget myself, I serve thee. And it's a powerful reminder that service is an incredible pathway to God. And I really want to emphasize that it's not about the form of the service, but it's about the spirit, which is that God is coming through me to serve others. So service teaches us above all to expand our little bubble of love, which might include on a given day just us, and on a better day some more people, and on a great day it might include all of humanity, but it expands our ability to love others. It's very important and gives you just the most beautiful feeling. It takes you very deep. Another gift that Yogananda has given us is chanting. And chanting's so powerful because it teaches us how to move from the intellectual into the feeling. And a lot of us, I'm probably the principal example. Before I came onto this path, I had very strong intellectual capacities, and it made me very dry, and just, it makes you sort of critical and judgmental if it's too intense. And when I came onto this path, I fell in love with chanting. And, much to the help of Kelly G and others, and Doocy, of course. And I know that Master gave me that personally because he was helping me to come into that calm feeling, the feeling nature, out of the aspect of our mind that is always cutting things into little pieces and organizing them into boxes, so that I could learn how to merge and feel and be in tune with reality, and to be in tune with God. It's really beautiful when you chant. You have this wonderful opportunity to get bigger than your body and get bigger than all of your self-definitions. And if you chant for a really long time, you literally forget yourself. That is to say, your little ego self that we so neatly have defined and shaped. So it's really powerful in that respect. And it's even more powerful in the group perspective because you also get to feel that sense of soul oneness with others, where if you chant for a long time and you look out, you open your eyes, you don't see that the person across from you is an other. You're just in one vibrational spirit together, which is really beautiful. And then there's energization exercises, which, I'm not judging anybody, but in myself, sometimes I get left behind. Like, oh yeah, they're just the energization exercises. That's like 101 stuff. That's the easy stuff. Give me the Kriya, or give me the deep meditation. And they're really powerful. And I want to share from a little bit of a different perspective of what they're usually practiced for, which is it helps us, just as chanting helps us to feel ourselves as a vibration, as a calm feeling, energization helps us to feel ourselves as energy. And how often do we feel ourselves as a physical body, like the weight of our body on the ground, our body touching things, senses? And if you close your eyes when you practice the energization exercises, you can feel yourself as energy. And that's a little bit more in tune with your soul nature. Remember, we talked about the chakras, the energy body. That's who we truly are, is the energetic side of things. So I'd encourage you to practice the energization exercise. I say that primarily for myself and anybody who else feels inspired. They're really powerful just for that one reason. And of course, others, but that one is the one that I'm sharing. And then there's meditation. And meditation is, we could go on all day about how meditation helps us to move from ego consciousness to soul consciousness. One of the most important is that it helps us to feel silence, which, boy, I don't know if anybody else has this experience, but when I shut my eyes, it's not silent. And sometimes it's really loud, like it'll be totally silent outside. Winter's a very quiet time where Shannon and I live. And it'll be perfectly silent, just like little leaves rustling. And inside my mind, it's like a shouting match. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So it's meditation, for one reason that it's important, is that it helps us to know that we are not our thoughts. And that's really powerful. So powerful that we can contemplate that over and over and over again, but we are not our thoughts. They're always they narrate our lives. If you haven't noticed, you know, there's like a little narrator in there who's constantly telling you, now David's doing this. David's has this to do later. Or I felt great about this, but I didn't like this. We all have that inside of us, and meditation is a wonderful way for us to step back from our thoughts and feel ourselves as silence. And again, that's a little closer to the soul side of our nature. And we have all these songs today about Om. And Om is really special. I personally do not hear the sound of Om when I meditate. Sometimes I like to just imagine that I'm hearing it, and I think that's what the master would counsel too, is visualize that you are hearing it, especially in the right ear. But I have felt in practicing, techniques that Yogananda has given us about the Om technique or trying to listen for Om in silence, a great comfort. And again, I'm trying to paint a picture of the nature that we're really used to experiencing, which might be like rational thinking. It might be a very loud mind. It might be very body-oriented, and paint a picture of what it's like to be in the soul. And there's nothing like the sound of Om to open the heart and to give comfort, especially if there's something that's really weighing on you. The vibration of Om is so powerful. That's one experience I can say that I feel very grateful for, is that it truly does quiet and soften the whole inner landscape, even if you're just chanting Om silently. So Yogananda also taught that the sound of Om actually frees us from identifying with the body. And maybe that's what that experience is like a little glimpse of, is this feeling of being free from identification with the body. And don't feel bad if you're identified with your body. Even Sri Yukteswar, when he was leaving his body, the last moments of his life, a Yana avatar, fully self-realized, he shuddered and clung to his body for a moment. So we shouldn't feel bad if we cling to our bodies. But Om is the way that we can actually have a lived experience of being beyond the body, or you could say behind the body, witnessing the body. Inner light is another one of these beautiful tools that we have on the spiritual path so that we can experience our soul nature. The inner light appears at the point between the two eyebrows, and you can just imagine the sun there or the moon. And in time, through deep meditation, stillness, and silence, we'll all have an experience of the inner light. And even if we've only had a little glimpse, it's thrilling when you experience being outside of ego consciousness, when you experience being outside of all of the self-definitions, of all of the thinking, this way that we call normal in our society, but is very abnormal from the soul perspective. So above all, meditation is there to help us commune with bliss. And that's our truest nature, is bliss. And no matter where you are from the ego state, whether you're in the selfish ego place, whether you're in the expansive ego place, or whether you're in the soul nature, you can always turn from exactly where you're standing towards the light. And that's what makes this path so powerful, in my opinion, is that it's not a religion in the sense that you assume a cultural way of being or doing, although Ananda definitely has its own culture and feels like a religion sometimes. But what Yogananda brought to us was the ancient truths of, you could call it a hidden path. It's really hidden in plain sight. It's just right behind the restlessness of our mind. He brought us all of these practices, tools, and techniques for us to experience the inner reality inside of us. And so you don't have to go and just listen to somebody talk about it. And in fact, he encourages very strongly, go into the laboratory, he calls it, of meditation, and try out all of these theories. In the scientific model, in order for you to prove that something is actually scientifically true, you have to replicate it yourself. So it's the same on the spiritual path. We have to go in and replicate what has been shared with us, these different inspirations, these different techniques. And that's so empowering, I think, that you can go in and do it yourself. And that we might not be a saint yet, and sometimes we are a saint for like a moment in our day, but that we can actually make an effort towards that sainthood through service, through chanting, through energization, through meditation. And by, we'll get there, When I was preparing for this service, I went and got a drink at a health food store. And, for anybody that prepares to lead something, it's sort of like you hold your consciousness open and you see what the great masters can give you for inspiration. And sometimes it comes on a bottle cap. And this one was actually really special. It said not to focus on what you get each day or the results. I don't know the quote. It's in my truck. I should have brought it in with me. Not to focus so much on the results or the fruits of your karma. It said focus on the seeds that you're sowing each day. And I think that's really wise for us to remember as we think about all of these different practices, as we think about this huge subject of karma, which can sometimes be overwhelming when you think, oh my gosh, maybe in a past life I did these terrible things and now it's following me, and how am I going to overcome all of this? That's really wise to focus not on the results or what you're getting each day as a measurement of if you have good or bad karma, but to focus what seeds are you actually sowing today? And not that it has to be action, it can just be feeling. It could be attunement with God. That's sowing a seed every single day because it's a vibration in the spine. It's because it brings us closer to our goal, brings us closer to God. So in closing, I just feel like maybe every Sunday service that I do should end with love for the Guru, because ultimately all conversations lead back to the power of the Guru. And in the reading it talks about how only the masters can see this tangle of karma and how to actually get out of it, because they're not in it, they're already free themselves. So it can't be overstated how important the Guru is. And even if Yogananda's not your Guru, goodness could be your Guru to start, or Christ could be your Guru. We're lucky we have 5 Gurus, so on any given day you can choose who you feel more attracted to. But the Guru is really everything, because we aren't able to see just yet beyond the horizon. And the Guru has that 30,000-foot view, and they understand the workings of karma and reincarnation. We don't need to labor ourselves with understanding every minute detail. They've got our backs on that. And so the chant that I shared, Pole Star, is a really beautiful reminder that if there's ever something to hook your attention to, if it's not the Guru for you, maybe it's the light, maybe it's the sound of Om, and maybe someday it will be the Guru. And if you can hold that attention at the spiritual eye as often as possible, that is the pole star. So no matter what karma comes to you, on a given day, to be honest, on a given decade, there could be difficult karma. And I think the trick is to not so much focus on the tangle, but to just keep the eyes on the Guru and say, from your soul consciousness, thy will be done, whatever you wish for me, Lord. And in that way, karma doesn't get wrapped around yourself anymore, because you're not identifying as a soul or a singular idea. You're allowing God to flow through you. So nothing sticks to you, because the flow of God it's just ever flowing through. That, I think, is the way that we can really get out of karma. And maybe the last thing I just want to emphasize is that, Yogananda said that good acts are not enough to free us from this body or free us from the cycles of reincarnation. So it is really important that we meditate on the divine consciousness every day, and that we keep attuning ourselves to the divine consciousness, because good karma is in that enlightened self-interest area, and it's valuable, but it won't set us free. The only thing that sets us free is by focusing on the Guru and focusing on the light at the spiritual eye, and being, as I mentioned, a a channel or being of service in this world. And that will really set us free. So I'll end with a quote by Master. This is from The Essence of Self-Realization, which is a great little book. So this is on karma. I guess I'll read the whole thing because it's actually nice. So a disciple. It all seems hopelessly complex, Master. Just think how many laws are passed in a single year by the government of one country. The laws of the universe then must number infinity. The Master, chuckling, really it isn't quite so complicated as it seems. In the Bhagavad Gita, the forces of evil are described as many, while those on the side of good number only a few. Jesus Christ, too, described the way to perdition as a broad highway, but he said, straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life. That's the spiritual eye. This is the one that I wanted to read. The ways of error are endlessly winding, but the way out of error is direct. A few simple rules will suffice, and the most important of these is simply this, to love God. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. We'll have our offertory.
Please take what you would like to give, place it in your right hand, and repeat after me. Divine Mother, we offer to thee the fruits of our labors. Bless this offering, that it serve as a channel of light to truth-seeking souls everywhere.
Yeah. Thank you.
Your participation with this one.
We clap in the middle of the chorus.
Yeah, so it's after light.
You got to demonstrate.
Brother, I've a faint suspicion you and I've been led astray. Taught to drive the devil from us, we've invited him to stay. What we need is light,
But we can't
drive out the darkness with a stick, with a stick. No, we can't drive out the devil with a stick. Some proclaim all men are sinners, can't escape the devil's might. How their interest must intrigue him, they won't let him out of sight. What we need is light,
or we can't
drive out the darkness, talking sin, talking sin. No, we can't drive out the devil, talking sin.